Hi, I'm Gregory Paolini, and in this episode of Table Saw Techniques, I'm going to show you how to cut rabbet joints and make shiplap paneling using your SawStop table saw. So stick around. Rabbet joints can run with the grain or across the grain, and they can be used for a lot of applications. You can use rabbet joints for positioning pieces into the back of a cabinet, or to remove material in order to facilitate installing glass or a picture into a frame. And you can even use rabbets to make drawer joinery. And you can double up rabbet joints in order to create shiplap paneling that was used in traditional furniture pieces. So let me show you a couple of ways to cut rabbet joints using your SawStop table saw. The first rabbet we're going to cut is going to run with the grain, and we'll cut it using a standard rip blade. For my first rabbet, I'm going to cut a 3/8 by 3/8 notch running with the grain. So I'm going to start by setting my fence to 3/8 of an inch, and then I'm also going to set my blade height to 3/8 of an inch. I'm going to make my cut with my board standing on edge, and I'll have to make this cut in 2 passes. For stability, I'm going to use some feather boards. That looks good. And before I make my cut, I'm going to put on my safety glasses and my hearing protection. Alright, so half of my rabbet's cut. Now, a lot of folks would just remove the feather boards and lay this piece on edge to cut out the remaining notch. The problem with that is it's going to create a small piece that can get trapped in between the blade and the fence. And that piece could catch on the blade and get kicked back pretty quickly, creating a real dangerous situation. Whenever we're going to have waste cut off, we always want it to be on the outside of the blade. So I'm going to reposition the blade and make sure that the distance from the outer edge of my board to the inner edge of my blade is 3/8 of an inch. So I'll just mark that and line up to the blade. And now I'm ready to cut safely. Every once in a while, something like this happens. Our offcut's still just barely attached to our workpiece because our blade is literally a hair too low. That's an easy fix. I'll raise the blade just a touch and make one more pass. Here we go. And that's one way to cut a rabbet using a standard blade in your SawStop table saw. So let me show you another way to cut a rabbet a little bit more efficiently using a stacked Dado blade. There we go. Now I've taken the standard blade out of my SawStop and I've inserted a Dado blade. I've got a stacked Dado set in my SawStop table saw. And it's important that you know that SawStop recommends only using 8-inch stacked Dado sets. with a maximum thickness of 13/16 of an inch. Now you don't want to use this kind of dado. This is a wobble dado, and it's not recommended in your SawStop. It may not engage correctly with the dado brake cartridge. Also, don't use molding heads or sets with solid plate interior chippers, as neither brake cartridge is designed to stop those type of dado types. The benefit of the stack dado is it's multiple blades that can remove a wide swath of material in one pass. So I'm just going to adjust the height of this, and I'm looking for 3/8 of an inch. And again, I'm adjusting to the apex of the blade. Alright, and all I'm going to do now is I'm going to adjust my fence to hold my workpiece. And I'm going to remove about 3/8 of an inch of material across my rabbet. So again, I'm 3/8 of an inch high and 3/8 of an inch wide. There. Now, I should be able to make this cut in one pass. A lot more efficient. But before I cut anything, I'm going to put on my safety glasses and my hearing protection. And there's the same rabbet joint, but cut in one pass. A lot more efficient. So if you've got a lot of these to cut, the dado's the way to go. And one of the applications that you would use a lot of rabbet joints for would be in shiplapping. And shiplapping is a type of paneling that you'd use on the back of a traditional furniture piece. And basically, you're looking at a shiplap joint right here, where the rabbets are kitty corner from one another, and they lock into each other. So let me show you a larger example of shiplapping. Now here, I've got quite a few boards with rabbets on opposing edges. And as I lay them out, you can see all of these pieces overlap one another and create a solid back that still has a little flexibility to expand and contract with seasonal humidity changes. So this happens to be for a bookcase, and let me show you a captured form of shiplapping on the back of a sideboard. This is the back side of an arts and crafts inspired sideboard that I'm working on. And you can see I've got 3 framed areas, which a lot of times folks would just put plywood panels in there, but I've got traditional shiplap panels, and you can see the individual boards. If I push hard enough, you can see them move individually, and they are overlapping each other with rabbets. So we've got shiplapping there that will keep light from getting in, keep dust from getting in, and each one of these boards is actually trapped in this framework set into a groove. So this is an example of fully captured shiplap paneling on the back of a period case piece, the way it would have been done traditionally. And that's 2 different ways to cut rabbet joints. One way using a standard blade, the other using a stack dado cutter. Both ways using your SawStop table saw. Be sure to join me again for another episode of Table Saw Techniques.